Debit versus credit. I just saw the latest video made by Roger Hamilton and his team. He made me think quite a lot about the concept of debit versus credit. See for yourself in the video below. equals V equals VNDJKHD09XG YouTube, Roger Hamilton or I think Roger Hamilton is very inspiring and clear thinking. He always have me think in new patterns. I am creator myself and I am pretty original myself if I might say so. But Roger is 10 steps ahead of me in visionary thinking. It takes quite a bit of foreknowledge on economic systems, particularly our current one. I wouldn't have understood it either when I was less studied up on the subject. What specifically do you have a question about? Fanox, this is an excellent find. Give the power back to the people. Lol. I really enjoyed it. Great exercises there in shifting the paradigm. You are not your income. You are not your net worth. You are not your possessions. Stop focusing on those things and putting your definition of yourself into those things. This is very true, and it is something you don't fully appreciate until you realize that you really could wake up one day and have nothing. The credit crunch means no more debt for you. Another paradigm shift from the way many people have come to think about their own economic health. We have all come to think that credit scores, relationships with bankers, and our ability to take on more debt are extremely important areas to develop. Time to think in different terms. How else can you get it done? How can you get it done without the debt? What other forms of leverage are available to us? Great mental exercises. Also, in these changing times, those things are lessons that we all need to learn. The faster we learn them, the better chance we have of coming out of the other end on top. If we are slow to adapt, to realize these things, we may go down with the ship. The rain drops. Here's my take on it. The capital system and the availability of credit enabled us to develop new technologies such as the internet etc., which made business more efficient, and the availability of information more readily available. The world has become a smaller place. The result is that new businesses can now spring up and grow very quickly and reach global markets through the internet etc., and they can compete with old established companies because of the way they communicate and deliver. Costs of delivery, costs and time taken to connect or communicate with their markets have reduced. Taking his media example, old empires such as newspapers are now being replaced by websites and electronic delivery and online advertising. Think of how you search for real estate or cars or jobs. Things have changed. Barriers to entry in more and industries have lowered. There used to be a limited number of, for example, media companies who controlled and channeled the flow of information, but now, thanks to the internet, anyone any raindrop can reach a global audience quickly at low cost. This is good news, so the challenge is, how can we capitalize on it? A better example might have been the old phone company versus the internet phone. Anyone familiar with the complexity of AT&T's old switching network? Off the charts complex, hard to maintain etc. Now look at Vonage. They jumped wisely on a much more advanced network that is much simpler and beat the holy snot out of the infrastructure-heavy Phanosauruses of yesteryear. There is a lot to be reinvented out there with current technology. What took 100 PhDs 10 years a generation ago can be duplicated by a couple grad students over a six-pack today. Here's a funny one. My master's thesis was about how hypertext systems would dramatically increase the availability of knowledge and the efficiency of communication. This was back when web browser meant NCSA Mosaic. At the time, I was told to research something important instead of that whole web fad. Whoops. A good reason why listening to yourself is the best choice no matter what happens. At least you have your dignity if you do, right? Self-respect and all that. Yep, but then my dumbass went to work on parallel compilers instead of founding Google. There are more billions out there. No problem. I missed the web when the elevator was on the first floor. Got my wife, my kids, great friends, good health, an easy laugh and great hair. No real complaints here. I've led an extremely blessed life and it pretty much gets better each year. If I could pick a life it would be the one I have, so no real regrets, just a little whining. Money is not that hard to gain. Right proposal and right value giving and you will have $10 million rather easy. The key word is sharing. See my pool example. I also wrote a new blog post today about the possibility to buy a luxurious Monaco property. Same concept. I've been thinking a lot about this since Howard Lindson's presentation at B&P. He said that he thinks financial leverage as we know it right now post-Reagan era is over and is still unwinding. He didn't say it is still unwinding, but will ramp back up. He said it is over. What does this mean? What did financial leverage look like pre-Reagan? Although it was the Reagan era, it would be more correct to say pre-Bricklin and Frankston. Who are they? They wrote VisiCalc, the first convenient spreadsheet program. This allowed the user to play what-if scenarios with the financial projections and get an answer within minutes rather than days or weeks. It's really a lot simpler than you think. Think about the Middle Ages, before the printing press. Knowledge was power, and those who had it ruled over those who didn't. A central power could dominate the world because it hoarded the knowledge. Now think about the US before it became an industrial power. The people who had the resources built the infrastructure, such as railroads and telegraphs. Again, a small few dominating the access to these services. And think about today. Energy and utilities. Without it, most of us would starve if we didn't have the heat, power, water, and transportation we need to live life as normal. Who controls that? The big utility and energy companies. They shut it off and life as we know it would end. Now, let's not forget the final thing. Money. Who dominates that? The central banks of the world. They determine who is creditworthy and who is not. And by using their money, all of us as individuals and nations are in debt to them. This brings me into what Hamilton is trying to say, but he only glances at the details. All of these services and sources of creativity have been dominated by a central source. But what if we have our own communication mediums? No need to rent time on a TV network. What if we as individuals and small communities could generate our own power, fuel and water? From solar, algae, desalinization, no need for big utilities and the big governments to regulate them. What if we could then issue our own money again, backed by something of tangible value instead of the perceived value of debt? No need to have the country be in debt to a central and private bank. Think about it. What would you do if you didn't have to earn money to support your daily life? Your power, fuel, food, water, travel. What if you produced it all yourself in your backyard with high-tech, automated systems? That's the irrigation analogy he's talking about. You don't have to depend on these big unknown companies to provide you with water through their irrigation channels. You produce your own rain. And how did all those private investors make their money? Those aren't the only technologies out there being revamped. Where do you think the federal government gets its money? And like ATW said, where did these investors get theirs? I'm trying to avoid a potentially sensitive subject, so please read into my questions. All of our money is credit. Great question. I don't know what it looked like pre-Reagan. Folks over at Tulip have an interesting and similar take too. The new leverage Howard pointed to is very interesting. I still don't understand fully how to use it, but it is my intention to figure it out. There has already been a reviving trend toward this. More and more people are turning toward homesteading and self-sufficient living. We don't have the high-tech automated systems yet. Is that coming next? Agree, money is actually an IOU note. Meaning when you give me a $1 bill you are essentially saying I owe you $1 and here is a note telling you that. So of course everything is credit. I don't think a professor in economics would disagree with that argument. That depends. I hope personal energy forms of tech don't get killed off by the overwhelming amount of capital being plunged into revamping our old infrastructure. We have two choices. Depend on a grid controlled by who? For our needs, or depend on ourselves. I'm hopeful. Well, that's the way it used to be. When everyone could issue their own credit. It's steeper than that now, and less friendly. X2 When I first saw the title of this thread I thought it was an accounting post. This guy is just another guru who talks around in circles. How much you want to be the audience was pitched some book or class. Either that, or you have failed to understand it. Once again, I am over and out of this thread. Why is it that the enjoyment has just been sucked dry? I think this thread proves that Hamilton can get rich talking out of his ass. Yeah, since we're all here to offer each other candid advice on their financial plans. Jay, you're a smart guy, no question there, but I gotta tell you, I'm just not getting that whole guru vibe from you. Swami J doesn't roll off the tongue all that easily for some reason, and my mental picture of you just doesn't have robes and sandals in it. Not trying to rain on your parade or anything. If you want to go the guru route, I'm generally a class A bullshitter when it comes to branding and will gladly see if we can revamp your image into something more guru-esque. Scott could be a guru, in a few easy steps. 1. Write a book. Doesn't have to be good or original. But it does need a flashy cover, and good back cover. Don't worry, hardly anyone will read it. 2. Get some airtime on a late-night shopping channel, plus blog and website. 3. Put on a nice suite. 4. Rent a Ferrari, and a big house. 5. Pay some attractive women to dance around, and cover yourself in fake jewelry for some bling. Heck, you can get a good enough looking Rolex for $10.60. Talk like this guy, and sound really smart. Talk about how you made millions in resitting around your Manson's pool with no effort. People like that, take a cue from Dogbert and call the company crap 2 idiots or something like that. Sell them for $29.99. Plus a free conference invite and upsell on a training weekend for $900. Dogbert is good at this. That's not how money is created in this country, or the world. All of our money is created from federal debt. Then, it's expanded using fractional reserve lending. Venture capital is comprised of some private money, but also institutional financing, which is partly created by the fractional reserve system. All of our money is debt. That's why you're not seeing what this Hamilton fellow is saying. Scott, the fundamentals of economics are usually ignored or buried under a ton of facts. It's difficult to see the foundation of a building because of all that is built on top of it. Most people focus on the building, but how the foundation is constructed determines the fate of the building. Your background is real estate, correct? If you found a property that looked great, but upon further inspection you saw that it had a cracked or sinking slab, it would severely alter the deal, no? Same idea here. Also, there are two sets of rules in this economy. You're trying to understand this post based on one rule set, so it seems completely alien to you, but if you started to look at it from the other set of rules, it would make perfect sense. It would be interesting to have a discussion about money, what it is, and how it's created. We'd probably have to ask MJ for permission, since it could get pretty heated if left unchecked. If he gives me the go-ahead, I don't mind posting up a topic. What do you think? Money isn't created from federal debt. What school did you go to and what did your eco professors teach you? Federal debt is the byproduct of the idiots in charge spending too much. Money was created originally to represent gold, so you didn't have to buy a house with a gold bar. Easy. No need to get snippy. Yep. It is. Those are the old rules. Money is now debt. In 1971 money used to represent gold. After that, the rules changed. Our dollars ceased to become money, and are now only a currency. It now represents the faith and trust of the federal government. The GOF authorizes a bond IOU to the Federal Reserve, a private bank. Fed buys the bond, and the GOF prints or types in dollars. GOF pays out money, and lower-level banks get the deposits. The deposits are loaned out at a 10-to-1 fractional reserve system. Essentially we have two economic systems. One for those who borrow money, and one for those who print it. A new thread about money, what it is, and how it's created is okay. As long as you don't say the Democrats are evil and the Republicans are the devil. I had this whole big long thing typed, but I don't want to drag it out. It's a huge subject. Your signature threw me off, and I got you confused with another person on the board with a fast lane banner. That's good that you have that experience. You can probably see some of the details that I do not. Where does consumer credit come from? And where did the private investors get their money from? Trace it all the way back.